guys, welcome to Earth to Rosita, and if you're new to my channel, welcome to my channel. If you're a regular here, I'm sorry I haven't been uploading. I had a really busy week, so I just I've been all over the place. But yeah, I have decided to film a video about the divine masculine, the divine feminine, or more like masculine and feminine energy, and I'm gonna try to explain it and how, the spiritual aspect of it, not just the Western's world, a Westerner's world view of it, like toxic masculinity, toxic femininity. This is more about the spiritual kind of origins of it. And yeah, so because I cannot gather my thoughts as I'm kind of caffeine crashing right now, I have to have something in front of me like a child. So I can't talk about this very well right now because my head is kind of dizzy. I'm kind of dizzy and I'm trying to listen to some meditation music. Okay, I'm rambling. I'm sorry, I keep rambling. I'm a very rambly person. But okay, so I'm gonna post a picture. Sorry, I got a call. Anyways, so what was I saying? I was gonna insert a picture of what I'm reading off of, somewhere in this video as I'm just talking about this. Okay, so the divine masculine it has traits such as focused, logical, protective, confident, accountable, and the divine feminine is intuitive, grounded, receptive, trusting, compassionate, and vulnerable. And the wounded feminine, there's not many to go off, but there's insecure, codependent, manipulative, and overly emotional and plays victim. And the wounded masculine is controlling, aggressive, unstable, and abusive, and too competitive. So yeah, so I think that it's safe to say that most people have at least some of these traits, or most of these traits within them. We're never just one thing, we're never just the wounded feminine or the masculine. We're never just the masculine and feminine, the divine masculine and feminine. We have both of those qualities within us always, within these two energies. But the problem arises when they merge together in a really bad way, or they're completely imbalanced. So, for example, what I mean by merge together in destructive ways is being overly, using your intuition to manipulate, or inauthentically being logical. And what I mean by that is being authentically logical, inauthentically logical is when you're overly logical and being completely dismissive of the divine feminine traits, which sometimes being overly logical has its downsides in the sense that not everything can be explained by logic. Some things require intuition, intuitive thinking, some things require us to be emotional and vulnerable. Or using trust, the divine feminine, as a control tactic. So what I mean by that is, God, I did not think that through. 1 second. So like when you build trust with someone to the point where you can access your your wounded feminine trait, and then use the trust that you have with somebody to control them. So for example, this is like where, like, how most abusive relationships are formed. So like, for example, you have a best friend that you confide in and you build a trust with, and you are open with them and vulnerable with them. But then that friend can use that, use all of those things that you trusted them with as a manipulation tactic and as a control tactic. And that turns into another form of the wounded masculine, an abusive relationship. So, see, the divine feminine and the divine masculine can easily merge with the wounded feminine and wounded masculine. And that is where we need to, like, really analyze how we use these traits within these energies. And then it leads us to the realization that the only reason that people take these traits and use it for the worse is because of the fact that they did not do the spiritual work or the spiritual healing. Which is why I truly believe that is why most of the world today is completely out of balance, is because we don't use these traits to the best of our ability. Although, then we go on to okay, but here's the thing about not using these two, like, these four concepts: divine, toxic, masculine, feminine. The thing is that is the way, the function of the universe, like this universe, as far as my spiritual findings have found, my spiritual seeking has found. I think that the only time this is a problem, this is a severe problem, is when one or the other energy dictates the whole of reality. So, for example, like, if the divine masculine uses its traits to override their control, overdo their control, I mean, not the divine masculine, the masculine traits in general. So, like, for example, you see the human world and all of the atrocities that it has caused, like wars and the way that we exploit animals, and the way that we exploit anybody who is just, like, weaker than us. this could extend out to like countries who are below us. Like, for example, the ways in which America has truly like exploited pretty much all of the world around them, just to get on top. And, you know, aggression, wars, and I, as a vegan, like, have to put this out there. Like, the way that the wounded masculine traits have claimed dominance and control over every other species. This is when you know that something is completely out of balance in this world. And this is why you're seeing so much, like, so much push for feminine energy to overtake. Now, feminine energy has its own problems. I've seen it, but it's nowhere near as bad as wounded masculine, or the way in which wounded masculine merges with divine masculine. Like, you see all of these, like the slogan, "The future is female," and you see this overtaking of like I don't know, feminists and stuff being really empowered, and power to the women. Like, I used to kind of be opposed to this, but now I'm seeing it more and more that although I don't necessarily agree that females should take over, I think that the point that needs to be made is that feminine energy needs to come into society more. Because when we have the divine feminine, you know, we can have a more compassionate, more authentic, more vulnerable, more supportive society. Now, these are the divine feminine traits. Now, if we can work with the divine feminine traits and mesh that with the divine masculine traits, some of the divine masculine traits, that is when we will have a better world. Not a perfect world, because there still needs to be some wounded masculine and some wounded feminine in order for this thing, whatever this is, to continue. That is the whole point of duality and polarity. This is how the universe functions. The universe functions in like a system where, you know, we give and we take. We exchange, like, God, I'm really not explaining this well. The universe functions better when there is some darkness as well as some light. The universe functions perfectly well when there is the sun and the moon, you know? But, like, could you imagine if, like, there were days when the amount of time the sun was present completely overrides the amount of times, the amount of hours we have the moon present. So this is like what I'm trying to ultimately say is that the nature has always, like, this is natural. This is what is natural. There's like a yin and yang factor with the sun and the moon. There's like an already like an arranged agreement of how the natural world is supposed to function. So like what, 12 hours for the day, 12 hours for the night, 12 hours for the sun, 12 hours for the moon. And nature already, way before like humans overtook everything and took everything into their own hands, and capitalism, you know, like kind of screwed all of this up for us and for literally every other species. There was already a balance way before human domination. Mankind dominated. And it was working perfectly fine. But, like, I don't know at what point it ran out of balance, but it's starting to catch up to us. And this is why we're, like, seeing so much, like, so much more spirituality coming out in, like, our social media. And even that is exploitative in some ways. Like, people are still exploiting spirituality with all of these scammers and all of these people that, like, obviously don't genuinely care about spiritual work and spiritual healing. And but, like, for example, like species extinction and exploitation of other species, all of these things are starting to come out, and humans are starting to see that they've taken the natural world into their own hands and completely messed it up. You have these things, like, that's why I gravitate more toward the vegan philosophies, because like vegan philosophy and scientists are like seeing more and more now that, you know, our bodies are better off on a plant-based diet, a well-planned plant-based diet, and hunting is not a necessity, and it's actually a detriment. It's actually really bad for the environment. We're trying to like undo all of this brainwashing and see that to have a more balanced world of yin and yang, we're going to have to do the spiritual work in order to balance out ourselves and our own energy. Which is why I'm trying to like urge people to do more spiritual work. I've been talking about this throughout like a lot of my videos in my channel, like the Incan Panpipes meditation like the Incan Panpipes meditation video I made, and an important message video I have with a rainbow emoji. The only way to a better world is to heal ourselves and do the spiritual work. Otherwise, we're just going to keep on having a repeat of the wounded masculine and the wounded feminine. And we're just going to have a repeat of the wounded feminine and the wounded masculine. I'm going to put that up, like, put the picture up here again so you can see what I'm talking about. We're going to have that, a redo of that. And the wounded feminine and masculine are going to keep on merging in with the divine masculine and divine feminine, and they're going to keep bringing it to a lower vibration instead of a higher vibration. And we're never going to see a better world. So yeah, I think that is all that I have to say about yin and yang, feminine and masculine, the sun and the moon. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. If you enjoyed this vlog and would like to see more vlogs, go for my content, have fun with that, and subscribe, and have a lovely day or night. Bye, guys!